Hey everybody, welcome back. Doesn't matter who you are or how you got here, I'm glad you are here. Let's get started. So today I wanted to talk some about how I got started preparing, essentially why I think it's a good idea for everybody to, and some of the things I think that a lot of people will go through emotionally, mentally, as you start down the path. Once that light bulb comes on, or once you realize, like, hey, maybe things aren't always gonna be like this, and maybe I should prepare in case there's a change in the weather, so to speak. So when I was just after we got married, kind of bebopping through life, and really thinking about wife, kids, in the future, just thinking about realizing, like, hey, the buck is gonna stop here. Like, thinking through that, like, you know, if society breaks down even a little, even if it's localized to a certain area, like say something with Katrina that we saw, or other natural or man-made disasters, help may not just be a phone call away. The grocery store shelves may be empty. We may be on our own for a little bit. So having that realization and that light bulb coming on kind of started me down this path. I started looking for, first thing I did, I was like, well, okay, I'm going to start looking for resources. And I think one of the first things I came across was a podcast called the Survival Podcast by Jack Spirko. I think I just Googled, like, survival or preparedness, something like that, and that popped up. This is back when he was making podcasts in his Jetta, going to his 9-to-5 job there. And so I started listening, started thinking about, you know, these things, started putting a plan together. I also, where I was living at the time, there was something called the Homeland Security Management Institute. They had online courses. They were kind of getting off the ground, so everything was free at that time. And so I took a bunch of online courses there. And that kind of really started me on my journey, and have since, you know, through experience, through continued reading, and taking classes on firearms, things like that, I have continued down that path. And I'll kind of tell you how I have developed my own plan moving forward based on everything I've read and seen and heard. So my experience, and I have talked to other folks who this has also been true of, is when you first start down that path is like, feels like your mind's kind of going 90 miles an hour, and you start looking at, oh, what if this happens? What if that happens? Well, what if this happens over here? And oh, I need this thing, and I need to get this, and I gotta have that. And it's just kind of around and around and around. It could feel really overwhelming once you kind of realize, like, you start logically connecting the dots of, well, the power goes out, what am I going to need to kind of at least be a little comfortable while that power's out? Well, I might need something to cook with, especially if having like an electric range top, something to cook with, you know, heat water. How am I going to, are you a coffee drinker? How are you going to drink, you know, how are you going to make coffee? Things like that. Oh, what if it's winter and the power goes out? How am I gonna heat this place if it's out for more than a few hours? Phones. How am I gonna keep my cell phone charged to call for an emergency or talk to loved ones, let them know I'm okay? things like that, and you can quickly kind of snowball into things. So one of the things that helped me originally was to realize that you're not preparing for any one single event. The popularized Discovery Channel take on things is like doomsday preppers. They'd always pick somebody and they're preparing for like this one event, like a thermonuclear war or EMP or economical collapse or plague, something like that. But one of the things that I learned from the Survival podcast was, I think Jack calls it disaster overlap, disaster commonality, something like that. But if you think about it from the perspective of, okay, well, if I put up food and water and a backup way to cook food, like it could just be something as simple as a camping range top, right? Like you'd use when you go camping with some extra fuel, so a way to cook. And if I put those things up, make sure I have some money in savings, things like that. That is going to cover tons of bases no matter what happens. So essentially, you're preparing to deal without systems of support. Where I would normally go to the grocery store and I cannot, then I have food on hand. Nobody has to go hungry. Where I would normally pick up the phone and call 911, well, I've made some preparations to harden my living situation where not just anybody could walk right in or take advantage, and whether that's active or passive, we'll get into that down the road. But those things, having extra food, water, things on hand, that's going to prepare you for everything from, hey, I lost my job today, that was unexpected. Well, now I have a little bit more breathing room to I don't have to run out and worry about where my next meal is going to come from. If I'm living paycheck to paycheck, I've got some food stocked away. I have a little bit of breathing room before I find that next job. Two, the fact that maybe there's a regional hurricane, power goes out, it's not coming back on for a week. Both of those things you've prepared for. Back to getting started. A lot of people can run right out, and there's tons of put together kits out there. Everything from, the large, they fit in a large trash, like rolling trash can. You just stick that in the corner of your garage. There's some emergency rations. There's some emergency shelter. There is an emergency radio. There's some emergency drinking water in there. You can get them in the form of backpacks, and you can pay anywhere from probably like $50 to $100 to like close to $1,000 for some of these things I've seen. I, however, am a fan of kind of building your own plan. The reason being is nobody's situation is like yours. Do you live in the city? Do you live in the suburbs? Do you live in the country? How many people? Is it just you? Is it you and your fiance, you and your wife? Do you have kids? Do you have parents who live nearby that are going to need your help, maybe getting out of the city or staying put? Is strength in numbers going to be better, or is it going to be better to leave and head towards people that you know? So your situation is different than everybody else's. That's why I don't really like these prepackaged things you can buy. They're not bad. If that's all you can do right now, that's better than nothing. But the method that I have come to use, the method that I started using, was something I call breakdown, evaluation, and accumulation. This is kind of how I avoided the running around like a chicken with my head cut off trying to decide what to do next. So, breakdown. I broke down, areas of preparedness based on my research, but basically there's 5 areas: food and water, heat and energy, shelter, medical needs, and defense. So if you think about your everyday life, food and water, get stuff from the grocery store, I turn on the tap, I've got water, heat and energy, I've got electricity in my house, powers my AC, powers my heat. Hey, I'm good there. Shelter, my home or apartment that I'm living in. Medical needs. Most people, you at least have a box of Band-Aids somewhere, maybe some Tylenol, ibuprofen, and if you need anything, you can go to the doctor. And then defense. For most folks, that's probably just the locks on your door, maybe an alarm system, and that's your everyday life, right? That's kind of how you'd look at those things. But if things start to break down, you want to think about, okay, well, if I couldn't go to the store and get water, food and water. So we'll just use that as an example first. So I'm going to say, breaking those things down into 5 areas, we're going to focus on food and water. I'm going to forget those other ones for now, right? So food and water. How many days do I want to start preparing for? Having things in my pantry. We'll make more videos, more in depth about getting food and water, but I'm gonna get my food and water up to speed, so to speak. Like I'm gonna have at least maybe at least a week's worth of food in the pantry at all times. When I get down to that week's worth of food, that's when I'm gonna go to the grocery store. I'm gonna have some extra water stored in gallon jugs, something like that to should for some reason the water out of the tap becomes unsanitary for some reason. So once I've gotten that up to speed, I've gotten some water stored, I've gotten some food stored, some extra, got some breathing room there, then I'm going to switch to my next. So energy and heat, right? So what if the power goes out? And maybe I live in a cold climate. I'm going to come up with a plan to, okay, well, if we're gonna stay here, maybe there's one room of the house we all go to. We're going to have extra blankets, sleeping bags, things like that, and have some hand warmers on hand. So if it gets cold, we're all staying in that same room. We're sharing heat that way. We don't have to worry about heating the rest of the house. But we've got a way to keep warm. That's like just a first step. So now I've got that out of the way. Now I'm going to go focus on the next thing. Shelter. So what if I can't stay in my house? Maybe that's the best plan, is you're going to shelter in place. So I've got my house. But if I can't stay in my house, do I have a tent, or do I have someplace else to go? Maybe the answer is leave and go to a friend or family member's house who's not in the immediate area, outside the disaster zone, so to speak. So now that I've had a plan or gotten some gear for that, now I'm going to go focus on medical needs. So I think it's always a good idea. Hey, if you keep a box of Band-Aids, have 2 boxes of Band-Aids. Have some nitrile gloves on hand. Do you take any medications, like prescription medications? Obviously talk to your doctor. See if there's a way to have at least one extra prescription should something happen. Maybe you can't get to the pharmacy, roads are closed. Now you can take your medication and you're not skipping it and endangering yourself in that way. All right, so food and water, heat and energy, shelter, medical needs, defense. So we've covered these things. Now we're going to defense. How am I going to defend this home? And it could just be something as simple as, okay, right now I'm good with the locks on my door and I have an alarm system. Again, more videos coming, but could be as simple as something like, okay, well, I'm going to take that old baseball bat, I'm going to have that by the bed. That's my plan for now. Maybe I've already done that. Maybe I want to up the ante, reinforce the points of entry to my house. There's lots of ways to do that. But so now we've hit these 5 areas. Now what we're going to do is we're going to go back food and water. We're going to go from, that week's worth of food. Now we want to go for 2 weeks or a month, something like that. And we're going to work on that. This method, and then once you've covered that again, then you're going to go back to heat and energy. How can I bolster heat and energy? So to make my plan more robust. But you're only focusing on these things one at a time, and when you go through, then you head back to the beginning, you reevaluate. So you've broken it down, you evaluate where you are, make it a little better, then you go on to the next. When you get back to here, you reevaluate, bolster it, make it a little better. So accumulation. So breakdown, evaluation, accumulation. As you go through, focusing on each one of those things. You're getting a little better in each area every time. All right, guys. Well, that is kind of how I have taken to preparing things. Is you just kind of go in that cycle. That way, you're not trying to think about everything at once and psyching yourself out and feeling hopeless and getting discouraged. Just take it one thing at a time. The other benefit of this is, especially if you're on a budget, it allows you to absorb the cost of stuff over time versus like freaking out and blowing whole paychecks or maxing out credit cards or things like that. Like, trying to get all this stuff done. But yeah, let me know what you guys think down in the comments. And yeah, hopefully you guys found this helpful. Hit the like button, smash subscribe, whatever you're supposed to say on these videos here. Do all that, but I appreciate you guys coming by. Hope this helped, and I will see you on the next one. All right. Bye, everybody.